With the PIOA, the Pacific Islands Orthopaedic Association, I started going to the Solomons in 2007, and my good friend there, Patrick Huasia, who also finished his training around the same time, and he and I were working together. I would go and support him once or twice a year, as outreach often sets people to do, and that was useful. Patrick had 3 registrars, but they had no training pathway, no pathway to get further skills or training, because the Australian Asia Pacific kind of diploma had been shut down suddenly in 2003 when a couple of Fijian trainees came to Queensland, and the AOA shut that down. There was no formal training in Fiji other than just time spent. There was not a curriculum program. There was nothing in PNG as well. And so Patrick and I decided at that point we would set up an association as the only way of running a program where the Pacific could control it, rather than having somebody in Australia shutting it down again in the future. And so we actually formally created an association. He and I were founding members. We wrote a constitution, and then I developed a training program. I took our Queensland training program, adapted it to be appropriate to the Pacific. The key thing I did at that point, which is before anyone else I think had done it, was to break it up into 11 modules based on the anatomy. The man who used to own Synthes and who sold it to J&J actually gave us our funding for the first 4 years. So one of the big problems in the Pacific is travel. The distances are significant, and the expense of airfares is more than 50% of our cost. So he gave us some money for the first 4 years, and then he gave us some more money for the next 5 years, and we're still running on that funding till the end of next year. That's enabled us to train 9 graduates so far, so 4 in the Solomons, 2 in Samoa, 2 in Fiji, 1 in American Samoa, and we have about 20 more trainees from Papua New Guinea, Timor-Leste, Palau, Micronesia, Solomons, Fiji, Vanuatu, Samoa, American Samoa. So my hope is that in the next 3 years we'll have had about between 25 and 30 graduates. And at that point, I think it becomes a self-sustaining association. I'm happy to still be involved, but I don't have... At the moment, I've been to every module for almost every part of every module. And I've been working on, as our graduates step forward, to give them the reins. So we've always had a Pacific Islander as president. And more I like to have them doing some teaching. But we still do want to welcome our Australian, New Zealand and Swiss friends and partners to come in and help us teach, because we value your expertise and the skills you bring. So, yeah.
That's right. And you wouldn't be averse to any more funding coming in?
No, absolutely. So that's a really big issue, is clarity of funding means that we can go on. The program costs between about $150,000 and $200,000 a year, depending on the number of students, the number of flights. 4 years ago, we cut it to 2 modules a year instead of 3, so we saved on one whole lot of flights, which made a big difference. But we need that frequent contact with them, and we do Zoom every week as well, 3 times a week, to kind of keep the contact with them, so they're involved in a training scenario, they can discuss cases, etc.
Very good. Now tell me, with all of this, is it important to have a supportive spouse and family?
Incredibly. Wendy is incredibly patient with me, and Wendy has been to Samoa and to the Solomons on one occasion each. There's no fun coming on a module because I'm working the whole time, and so it's pretty boring for her. But she's wonderfully supportive and encourages me. Also, she's incredibly hospitable and welcoming, and so when our students travel through Brisbane on their way to a module or on their way back, we'll often host a number of them at our home or next door under my mum's place, so that we can kind of look after them as they transit through. So yeah, Wendy's been wonderful.
So you're looking after more than just their surgical skills?
Absolutely. So one of the key things, I think, is been helping them to become better advocates. All of them are in resource-constrained systems. The standard Pacific response is that, we got no more. Yeah, and we've run out. So, but I've been teaching our guys that it's their role to see what they have, to plan ahead, to ask for more, to hassle their administration to make sure they have the supplies they need, and if there's an urgent problem, to let us know as well. PIOA helps them with getting implants, so we have contacts in China and India, and we arrange implant supplies. And they're very cheap. They're about a tenth of the price of the Australian equivalent, but they've been tested and they're of good quality. They meet the ISO standards. But we want the hospitals to buy those rather than just be receiving charity, because otherwise the systems never develop to enable them to go on their own 2 feet. So that's always a challenge, and we have to kind of do 2 steps forward, 1 step back with that. But it is important that they develop. So Samoa is a great example. I got them a set of locking nails for femurs, tibias, and also TENS nails. The guys here are just brilliant with them now. They are experts at them, and their hospital's now buying those because they've seen the reduction in length of stay and the savings to the hospital budget from that. So a child with a TENS nail is in hospital without a TENS nail is in hospital for 6 weeks. The parents have to take time off work. It costs the hospital a fortune. The kids with the TENS nail are fixed and home, and it's saved both the family and the system a lot of money. So
Very
much
good.
better.
Well, if looking back on your career, is there anything that you would change from what you've done?
That's a great question, Graham, and I don't think there is. I mean, each step has been special. As I said, the time, even before I went to Nepal, the time on the border, travelling around New South Wales. So I worked at Wagga in New South Wales, so doing a peripheral year like that. I worked in Campbelltown, had a great year there with some surgeons who taught me a lot of general surgical skills before I went. The 7 years in Nepal were fantastic. I loved my orthopaedic training, and then I really enjoyed my practice. And from 2007, when I started doing the island stuff, then I would basically take between 6 and 10 weeks off a year from private practice to be involved in the islands, to do visits, to run modules and courses. And so all of that has been a joy. But you get tired, and so I had enough of it all, yeah. Okay.
And tell me, just to finish off there, is there anybody that, just while you're on a camera here, you'd like to express thanks for their support and help along the way?
So I've obviously mentioned Grace Warren. She's now 94, and unfortunately has, as she says, her forgettery is getting better. So the dementia, and she's recently had a fall. But she's been a wonderful mentor. I would not be where I am today if she had not taught me the things she taught me. She came to visit me in Nepal for 2 weeks, 3 years in a row, stayed for 2 weeks, taught me a bunch of procedures, which I videoed and I wrote notes on, and then I practiced those for a whole year, and then she kept doing that for further procedures. So at first she taught me foot drop corrections and septic surgery, then I learned hand tendon transfers, and then finally the complex face stuff, including for lag ophthalmos and facial reconstructions. And I did those for the 7 years and taught other people beyond me. So she was fantastic. John North, as I said, was incredibly encouraging, and Bill Cummings. And people like yourself that I've met, where we've had a long relationship now since 1994. So that's 30 years now where we've crossed paths all the time, and you've come and taught at my programs, at the PIO program, for which I'm very grateful. So there's been, I think, 57 Australian, New Zealand and Swiss colleagues who have taught at the modules over the last decade. 57 different people. Many have taught more than one module. Some have taught up to 8 or 9 modules. So I'm incredibly grateful for their support and help. And Wendy, obviously, who allows me to play in this manner. So, yeah.
Very good. Well, Des, thank you very much for taking the time and answering the questions so clearly.